Hello, I'm Candid Frank Stanishi of Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now, on Candid Frank Live, joining me is Aaron William Freeland. Hey, Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Great, Frank. How are you?
Well, I'm trying to do some constructive work around the house, and it floats from constructive to destructive, and then it even becomes something obtuse. I don't know what that means, but something like that. I heard somebody say that once, so it sounds impressive.
Been there, done that. I can sympathize. I know the feeling.
How's your kitchen counter coming? See?
Right?
See? Right?
How's the downstairs bathroom? Hey, did you find a door that fits yet?
No, there's no door on the bathroom. Well, usually it's just me and my gal pal, and now my mother. But we have an upstairs bathroom. The downstairs bathroom is for an emergency when you're outside. Usually, when you use the downstairs bathroom, a door gets in the way because you gotta go. The casual visit to the what do they call it in the U.S.? We call it a washroom.
A restroom.
Restroom. We call it a restroom, or Americans call it a restroom.
We call it a wash or a bathroom. They call it a restroom.
That's what we call it. So Either way, if you're going to that place, you're gonna wash for sure. At least you hope that people do. Yeah. So let's start at the beginning, and the beginning today is going to be looking straight up at sports. We'll start with sports because that's our favorite thing, the Canadian Football League. Lions make a coaching change. Health issues are a concern. And remember, a lot of people at this point who are American coaches, they're a couple of steps from needing to go home, and you can't just, dart off to the homeland, right?
No, this is very true, and it's always a tough situation to be in. But Leroy, for those who know, Leroy is stepping down with the BC Lions. He spent 6 seasons as a defensive line coach in Ottawa with the Red Blacks, and was Edmonton's defensive line coach in 2013. He also played 15 seasons in the CFL. There's really not a lot that's been released to this. I just thought it was interesting to note the change at the top. He's going to be returning home to attend to some personal and health matters. So Godspeed to him and his family. Hope everything gets resolved in the best ways possible. And hopefully we'll see him back behind the bench soon.
It is tough, being a professional, whether you're a player or a coach. It can be extremely difficult. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, they signed former Argo, former Saskatchewan Rough Rider, Tyler Crapina. He is the guy who played for Ottawa and had like 5,000 field goals in a row.
Yeah. His kicking record has been absolutely remarkable. I mean, he's hitting 98 out of 115 career, or over 85%, which is absolutely fantastic. So,
Absolutely. Kickers move around in the Canadian Football League. They move around a lot.
Yeah, I've noticed they seem to be the player that moves the most and seem to be the player that's releasable the most. So
absolutely. So, Aaron, the Blue Jays are up against the Red Sox. They were introduced to some bats in the last series in Buffalo in that first game. Then they had a rain out. Good news, Pearson's on his way back. This is a Jays team that if you're a Jays fan, you can't really complain, but man, do people complain. if people would have been told before the season started that the Jays would be ahead of the Yankees and threatening to be in first place, threatening, not there, but threatening, I think there would have been a lot of happy Jays fans. What do you think?
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, the problem is that fans have the same expectations for the Jays as they do when it comes to the Leafs. It seems to be a blight on Toronto sports franchises that everybody expects them to suck as much as the Maple Leafs do. And when they don't, people get angry about it. Like, I've seen people that are absolutely militant about the fact that the Blue Jays absolutely shouldn't be where they are. They shouldn't be ahead of the Yankees. And how dare they lose to Baltimore? And they should set this franchise on fire. And we need a new stadium. And it's just like,
the
enjoy
manager
it.
Sucks.
Oh my God.
Hey, there is a common thread if you notice. Every team that has won a championship in Toronto over the past 10, 15 years, TFC, I'm not saying it was a big surprise, but it was a surprise, right? This was an organization, a team that floundered for many, 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 many years. As a fan of that team, do you agree with that? And what I'm trying to get at here is them. We'll paint the whole picture. So in my mind, they were a bit of a surprise. There's no doubt that the Toronto Raptors were a surprise, right, in winning the championship. Anybody that started that season and said we're going on the championship run would have been surprised. The Toronto Argonauts historically over the past few years, because they played so terribly and then all of a sudden play really great for 1 year and then disappear again, it's almost as if the Leafs and the Blue Jays have to sneak up on their fans. You get what I'm saying? Because that seems to be, as soon as the fans think that they can win, the team tanks. I'm not saying tanks on purpose. I mean, it seems that's the burden they have, is that the pressure of being a possible winner in Toronto can overcome a franchise.
No, it definitely seems like that. I mean, the Argonauts have been remarkably consistent in the past decade. They've won once every approximately 5 to 7 years. So, that's been sort of the roller coaster ride that we've been on with them.
Feast or famine.
Exactly. And the other issue that you find is a lot of these teams get good, but at the same time, people expect them to be bad. Like, oh, sure, the Raptors are in first place now, but give us a couple games and we'll be right back in the middle of the pack where we belong. Because fans expect mediocrity out of all of Toronto's franchises.
Well, you know what? I don't disagree with you, but to be fair to the Toronto sports fans, they've been snake bit so many times. They've been disappointed so many times. Like, they can't be all in. You know what I'm saying? They can't be all in, because as soon as they're all in, they feel they'll be disappointed. And you know what? Places like Chicago, Boston, who else can I throw? LA. You can throw those, Boston. You can throw all those towns. They went through some pretty dire times, right? And every time they came, Cincinnati recently, St. Louis recently, they look like they're going to play really well, and then something happens, and the confidence, New York Mets, the confidence in the team is very weak, and there's a very weak confidence foundation. And I think that's a lot of pressure for a team and a franchise.
It most definitely is. And the problem that I find is a lot of the times Toronto teams seem to live down to the expectations. And it can be, I mean, for a fan base that's already as wounded as we are, it just seems like it's an additional slap in the face. For example, well, it gets even better. For example, we have the expansion draft coming up tonight. For those who are interested, it's on one of those sports channels that are owned by one of the major conglomerates that, has nothing to do with us. So this is not a plug for that. But it turns out, there was a video that leaked that everybody freaked out about.
There was something fishy about that, Aaron. I don't know.
I don't know if you saw the follow-up video, Frank, but they also shot
a follow-up video.
They shot a whole bunch of different takes with McCann's name in it as well.
Oh, so that was a bunch of. Well, we'll see what happens tonight, right? But
Well,
Griffith's
well,
close from there. He's West BC, Southwest BC, so he's very close to Seattle.
I mean, most people were convinced that it was going to be Kerfoot based on this video. And then reports started coming out today from reporters at the Three Letter Network who were rather upset that the other network actually had all the NHL coverage, that it was actually going to be this other player that Toronto had just traded for. And of course, the fans are absolutely losing their minds because they're upset over losing a player that hasn't played a single game for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but is supposed to be better than every player we protect. And I
love
want to.
Montreal. I love Montreal. Their GM is brilliant. I love the way the Montreal Canadiens operate. Carey Price said, "Yeah, put me out there," and then they put out his whole health record, right, showing that he has some issues, health wise, and they said, "We'll call your bluff." Seattle, you want something not to take them? No, just take them. Go ahead and take them because they're looking at it the right way. If you're taking him, you're not taking someone else. And that someone else can be more important to your team. We discussed this on the last show. Can be more important to your team than the guy they take. We've seen it. Vegas made so much hay with fear in the other 28 teams.
And people were just willing to throw draft picks at him to make sure that didn't happen. I loved it.
Let me make
maximum chaos.
Let me make sure that you do really well in this draft. Let me throw in a couple of first-round draft picks. Yeah. And then, we talked about the fact that they're not giving up any players. Man, I want to be their organization. Why can't the Leafs do stuff like that? Look at Ovechkin available. Ovechkin's available.
I would take him. I would take Price. I would just to piss off Toronto fans. I would take a Dermott.
But the availability of Ovechkin requires him to be convinced to go to Seattle because he's unsigned at this point.
Technically, well, so basically they'd be picking up his rights, wouldn't they? Because he's a UFA after this season, isn't he?
Well, there's okay. I'm really not very good at this. There's a timing thing. Washington can sign him after the draft, but there's this little tiny window that Seattle has that they can negotiate with free agents, but they have to convince that free agent to come by, right?
Right.
So, like you're thinking. So, we're talking about the ups and downs of franchises. I think 50 years is a pretty good wait to win a championship. The Milwaukee Bucks did that last night. They lost the first two games of the series. You see, this is why you don't get upset when you lose the first two on the road. All you got to do is win the next four. What's the big deal? They did it. And oh, man. The Jays wanted this guy. Not the Jays. I'm sorry. The Raptors wanted Akatakumbo. They wanted him. And they didn't get him. And he signed with Milwaukee, stayed with the team that drafted him. And they built a couple of guys around him. They didn't go with let's bring in the three best guys available. They filled some holes, and they played really well the last couple of years. They could have won it the year that the Raptors won. They could have won it again last year, but they finally did. What do you think of their victory?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. And you're right. Giannis did actually do it the hard way. He didn't do it by going to a team that already was stacked with a whole bunch of superstars like certain other players have. He
Miami,
stayed with
LA.
Yeah. he stuck with the lady what brung him. And it finally brought him a championship. I don't know if you saw the video, Frank, but it's absolutely adorable. He went to McDonald's and ordered 50 chicken nuggets live on Facebook. One for each of the 50 points he scored.
Oh, okay. Or one for every year that they didn't have a champion. Goes two ways. There's a subtle innuendo there too. So good for him, and it's great that one of the franchises that doesn't have the mega budget, like the Raptors have a pretty good budget. But they're not in LA, they're not in New York, they're not Miami, and it's nice to see these franchises. We see it in hockey all the time. But it can be a little too much, in the NBA. It's difficult for teams like Milwaukee to win, but they've done it before. and they can do it again. I mean, teams like that. Uh, let's look at Canadian soccer. A couple of players have been injured. I know you're really good at this stuff. They've got a couple of young guys that have been hurt. Hopefully, they'll get better. Will it hurt the process that Canada's in?
You know what? Honestly, we've had fantastic development at this point. Having them get injured at this point in the Gold Cup just means that the rest of the team is going to have to pull together. We'll actually finally be able to see. What's on the back end of this.
Yeah,
you know,
the depth.
Can we do it?
Absolutely. So, and they'll need the depth. Nothing taught us in the world of soccer more than Italy, that had their 30 guys that played the whole World Cup, the whole Euro Cup, right?
Definitely.
The Vancouver Whitecaps, they're returning to BC at the end of July. It appears that a lot of the franchises in Canada are coming back to Canada. There's another story we're going to talk about and how Canada stands as far as COVID is concerned. The Olympics, 44-game unbeaten streak ended. Aaron, what happened?
Postmortem, baby. Yeah, this was one of those what the heck happened sort of moments. The U.S. women's national team suffered a defeat 3-0 to Sweden in their first match for the Summer Olympic Games. The Olympics technically haven't even started yet. The opening ceremony goes tonight, but Vlatko Andonovski's side went in as the heavy favorites for the gold, having won 22 of their 23 games under him. But in Tokyo, however, Sweden, they kind of shocked the living heck out of the Americans. I gotta say,
they're a pretty good team. They've done well over the years. Canada has had trouble with Sweden too.
Now, the United States hasn't actually lost since January 2019.
Right.
So you can imagine that this is a bit of a shock for them. So
are you a shock? Are you trying to suggest that they might be a little overconfident, maybe?
I wouldn't necessarily say overconfident. I think just more resting on their laurels. They might have their past ability to steamroll other teams might have led to a little bit of complacency.
While they were resting on their laurels, they fell off the chair.
Basically.
So I got you. Sue Bird, Eddie Alvarez, named U.S. flag bearers. Very limited amount of people will be involved in that. We know that from the Canadian contingent.
No, what's super awesome is that this is Sue Bird's 5th Olympics. She's already won 4 medals. I believe she's been a gold medalist every single time with the U.S. women's basketball. And Eddie Alvarez will be representing Team USA, when it comes to baseball. Now, the other thing about Alvarez is he also won silver in speed skating in the most recent Winter Olympics. So he's a dual Olympics athlete. So I think it's absolutely fantastic. Bird actually just turned 40. So this is super for her as well. But it's a good thing to see.
Green leadership issues are behind the party for now, says leader Paul.
Yes. Sunday, party executives called off a no confidence vote that was actually supposed to take place today. So at this point here, they're basically saying, look, we're going to try to get everything stabilized. There could potentially be a fall election called at this point. We know that there's stuff coming before the parliament that we can trigger a no confidence vote on. We'll have to work with other parties, but we don't. If there happens to be an election call, we want to make sure that we're on stable ground heading into it. So for now, she's safe.
Safe or unsafe, the Green Party has its roots in, green policy, right? It seems to be moving away from that as the central tenet that they are going after. I think, under Paul, it's going to change where the environment isn't the primary thing. Not that it has been, for a very long time. The former leader comes in and says, well, we need to have, Elizabeth May basically wants to see peace in the valley. What chance is there of her seeing that?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I mean, it does seem to be quiet for now, and I think it's more a case of temporarily pouring oil on the water for the time being. We'll have to see what actually comes from it. But it is true, May did actually release a statement yesterday saying, "I stepped down less than 2 years ago, despite our best results ever in electing 3 MPs, knowing it was time for new leadership." That new leader is Annamie Paul, and I think May coming out and stating this publicly has a damping effect, a suppressive effect on all the discord, at least for the time being. I mean, we'll see how long it lasts and how long the siblings stop fighting when they're wearing the "We Get Along" shirt. But we'll have to see.
You're characterizing it almost in a way that Elizabeth May is playing the grandma role, and you know, the children, and she decided to back away because she was trying to be unselfish and allow the party to move into a new phase, right? That was, I think, her. She felt that the party needed to outgrow her, and unfortunately, what I think with this party that's going on is that uh, leader Paul advanced too quickly, changed things too quickly, and it's kind of the way times are today. Back in the day, people were racist. They would not, they would be difficult on someone who's black, or in this case, we have a woman who's black and Jewish who is stating, "I am black and Jewish," and I don't think anything here was racist. I think it's simple politics where, she wants drastic change in the party because she's the leader. And she reiterated it again in this story where she says, "Well, I'm the leader. I get to decide." But to me, that doesn't seem like what a leader does. A leader kind of tries to bring everybody together instead of challenging the people that she's leading.
Well, the
You know
other
what I'm
thing is,
saying?
though, Annamie Paul is trying to lead the party in a new direction. And again,
Right.
as a leader, her job is to lead them. So the obvious push that she is making for changes as the leader of the party to lead them away from where they are now and towards more centrist and palatable policies to increase their political appeal is roughly where we're at this point.
But do you throw or make everyone who's there now feel uncomfortable and unwanted?
Change is never comfortable, Frank. You know
But
this as well as I do. If
yeah,
the
no,
party is
no,
going to change,
I get the change part, Aaron. I get the change part. But the question is, how much change it's in life, it's not as easy as thinking you're doing the right thing. Sometimes there has to be compromise on all sides. It isn't a dictatorship. She is the leader of a party, and as a leader of the party, she should understand where the party's at, where she wants the party to be, and not be exclusive, be inclusive. You see, you can't have it both ways. If you're going to exclude everybody that's in the Green Party because you think they're not the right type of people, and you make sure everybody knows that, the reaction of the people within the party is going to be obvious, because power is something everybody wants. Some people
last
just don't want to give it away, Aaron. Some people just don't want to give it
my
away.
my last minute thought on this, Frank, is that while a leader of the party may acknowledge that the party has to change and wants to change it,
Right.
those who are in the party have to be willing to change too. And right
Right.
now, the Green Party is not showing that at all. They're
Yeah,
all digging in their heels.
absolutely. And
So
and 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 I think it's because too many of them are being asked to bow out. Being made to feel like change to me is incremental, right? You don't blow it up. You don't, this feels like the Green Party is being blown up. But I hope they can work things out, because they have a lot to offer, right? They have a political side historically that has been obviously accepted by people, and hopefully they'll work things out. So one quick thing, you got 20 seconds. Ontario stopped enforcing credentials in skilled trades. You got a few seconds.
Yeah, so back in 2018, when the Ford government took over, there have actually been zero provincial oversight of whether people working in Ontario's licensed trades actually have the credentials there. So this is, for those of you who are looking to get repair work done or contracting stuff done, check the references. Make sure this person has been around for longer than 3 or 4 years.
That's a concern. That's a big concern. Thanks, Aaron. Great stories today, by the way.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay, he's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live. Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live and other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching. Ciao for now.